Hello and welcome to episode 32 of Entertainment of Excellence, the podcast where we talk about films, TV, all of it. Hi, I'm Ollie,
I'm Thom.
And I'm Ben.
and today we're going to be talking about the 1967 film In the Heat of the Night. This will contain spoilers.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so the plot follows a black police officer. Okay, so some guy's been murdered. I can't remember his name. Do you remember his name?
Sounds like COVID.
Oh, Mr. Colbert.
Yeah, something like that.
Or was he a suspect? Oh, I don't know.
No, it was Colbert that got murdered.
So he's just been murdered, and then this black police officer gets arrested because they're like, a black man sitting by himself? Yo, murderer. You know how it was. It was 1967. Nowadays, they just shoot him on sight. Yeah, this... it has aged a bit too well, this film. Which is a bit worrying. We'll talk about that later, but I'll just carry on. So, he basically, it turns out he's a homicide expert, so they use him to try and help crack the case. And was the guy that they caught, was he of any relevance? Was he just part of that, like, white supremacist group or whatever?
Well, it says on the Wikipedia page that he's the boyfriend of the woman that got the abortion.
Yeah.
So
But who was the woman?
Okay, so as far as I can't be asked reading all of the Wikipedia thing. We're very prepared in case you hadn't already noticed.
Yeah.
Basically, so there was a police officer called Sam Wood that was the prime suspect for a while, and Tibbs, who's the black police officer, was in the car with him, and he noticed that he didn't want to go down a particular road. It turns out because there's a woman there who always is naked in the window, and he obviously goes to creep on, and it turns out that she's pregnant with his baby, and so she wants to go get an abortion, and I think it's her boyfriend that killed.
There's her brother.
Oh yeah, so her brother
Yes.
who kills. Yeah, because she's talking about the fact that she's like naked and stuff because her brother's out and she doesn't have anything to do. Because that's what women do.
According to this film.
Yeah.
So, obviously, it feels like the main thing the film is trying to tackle is like, as well as being kind of an entertaining murder mystery, it's obviously trying to show a depiction of racism in the South because it is supposed to be a Southern American town. So you get, your white supremacists with the Confederate flag trying to attack him, and also just kind of basically everyone is racist towards Virgil at some point, aren't they?
Yeah. Even the wife of the deceased who's probably the nicest person to him, at least in the first half, is still like calling him racial slurs and because that was just the attitude at the time, unfortunately.
Yeah, but then he does sort of develop a relationship with the other police officer who like defends him when there's like white supremacists trying to beat him up.
Yeah, but I liked that because, I mean, I obviously knew it was one of those like racist man becomes not racist films.
Yeah,
You know, they're around a lot nowadays. But like at first, he was obviously racist towards Virgil, and then as soon as he found out he was a homicide expert, he just seemed to stop, and I was like, that's weird. But then he does show some kind of prejudice towards him later on again. So I was like, oh, that's more believable, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does seem to be a bit more nuanced about it, instead of just like as soon as someone is forced to be around a black man, they suddenly become not racist.
I suppose it was kind of more because it was in a professional environment, and he saw that, yes, he's a black man, but he's what we kind of need on this case. So
Yeah,
I think he might have just put it to his side.
Yeah, which I guess is fine, but there were still obviously people that wanted to get Virgil just out of their town, which is, it's like, wow, geez, really don't like this guy. And it was like, who was it? It was the, like, a mechanic guy. What was he? I don't know his name.
Really
the only
graceless.
the only name I really remember is Mr. Endicott, the who keeps the plants, who hits Virgil, and then Virgil just slaps him back, and then he's like, "Oh, I can't believe you would hit me. Why would you ever do that?"
Yeah.
So you just hate him, and so does Virgil, and just basically tries to pin the murder on him because of his own like personal anger, which is good that it shows like how everyone could be prejudiced for different reasons. So like Virgil shows prejudice towards him because he's a terrible person.
Yeah.
Which is a better reason, to be fair.
Slightly, yeah.
Yeah, you can understand it, but still it's kind of not morally great because it's getting in the way of justice and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, on another note, I'll point out that one of the other names I remembered particularly was Shagbag. A very minor character, but a very memorable name.
Yeah. It does handle like its issues very well, because this was still during the civil rights movement, which I think ended in 1968. So this was 1 year before that ended. So it was probably quite controversial at the time. In fact, I can probably have a look.
Yeah. I mean, I think it did win the Oscar for Best Film, but I can definitely see why there will be some controversy surrounding it.
Yeah, there's a lot of magazines calling it powerful and some of the best films, and it's actually been placed on the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress on the list for preservation because it is culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
Yeah.
Which I can definitely see.
Yeah. And probably it's not necessarily in the best way, but it's probably quite relevant even today, which is quite...
Yeah.
Well, I've seen some reviews saying that.
Well, I think it's interesting. I'm glad we're doing it now, because something just happened in the UK, which kind of was quite like snapped you back into reality. Was Sainsbury's released a Christmas advert which had a black family in, and it had loads of people saying like, "Oh, this is disgusting. I can't relate to this. Where are the British families?" And it's like, and then, but they're fine with Aldi's carrot family advert and stuff, and it's like, whoa. It worries you about how far we've actually come. It doesn't seem...
It's literally just a black family.
Seems to have gone backwards in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, although one obviously racist guy just said, like, absolutely sickening. That was their tweet. And then someone just replied saying, finally, someone else that hates gravy. That's the highlight of that tweet.
I thought you were still on about this film. I was like, what?
No, it's the Sainsbury's advert, which is called like Gravy Town.
All right.
So it is worrying how, because it feels like there was in like the 90s and mid 2000s, people would at least pretend to not be racist.
Yeah.
But it does feel like it's gotten worse recently. An interesting thing that Steiger and Poitier did was they apparently occasionally went to the Capitol Theatre in New York to try and see how many black and white audience members there were, which they could work out by listening to the slapping scene. So they'd listen for how many people cheered Tibbs' retaliatory slap and how many people went, "Oh!" in astonishment.
Nice.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
I wish I could just see that now. I think it'd be
I
quite
can
funny
definitely
going repeat watchings.
I can definitely see why that would be like a standout scene, because it's just like immediate and it's definitely something that you wouldn't necessarily expect, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's
was
justified.
It was very sudden, and the fact that Mr. We're all great with names. Mr. Endicott was clearly shocked and was planning to hold the fact that Tibbs slapped him over his head when he'd also slapped Tibbs, which kind of shows the power imbalance there.
Yeah.
Like, even though Tibbs was a police officer, he's still a black man, and in that town, in that era, really the fact he's black supersedes the fact he's a police officer.
Yeah.
One thing I just want to mention is that, like, the town is called Sparta. I just want to... I thought that was kind of weird.
Not as weird as the guy constantly chewing gum throughout the whole film.
Yeah, the police chief of the town is chewing gum the entire time.
Yeah.
Does he ever take it out? Is it the same piece of gum?
Good to know that's the most important thing you took from the film.
Of course not. So
it wasn't the gum, it was obviously the wobbly aerial on the police car.
Yeah. One of the other social issues I guess it only briefly touches on is abortion, because obviously Dolores is going for a backstreet abortion. I'll just look up when abortion was legalized in America, but it was probably a state-by-state thing, right?
I'd assume so.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I know in Britain it was like 1968, I think.
Oh, it was 1973 was Roe v. Wade. So, yeah. I mean, they probably... I think that was when it was national. Yeah.
Search for Mississippi specifically, I guess.
I will. Mississippi.
Yeah.
Oh, that was 1966, apparently.
Oh, right.
Oh, no. Oh, in cases of rape. Oh.
Yeah.
And that they would have been very tough on that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they could just get... The rapist would probably just be able to go, "No, I didn't rape them." And they'd be like,
that was
well,
shown in the
technically
film.
rape, wasn't it? Because
yeah.
she was like underage.
Yeah, because they were questioning her a lot. They were questioning a lot. Did he force you, or did you let him? Kind of with the assumption that he was going to go with you. Probably let him and everything. And they had to. I think it was the brother had to really make the case that no, this is statutory rape because she's 16.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad if you think about it, but.
And also, it's like it was $600 was the cost of it, and it was just some like random woman that did it, and it kind of like how difficult it is to get rid of this awful thing that has been like forced upon this. She's a girl, she's 16, like.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really deal with that too much. It just kind of throws it in there, and also it makes it look bad.
She was the one instigating it, but at the same time, like, that doesn't justify that she's having to bear this burden. And I don't know. It doesn't explore that as much as obviously some of the other themes.
It might kind of dodge around it in a bit of a dangerous way. I mean, obviously it wasn't legal at that point, so I guess it would have been even more controversial than the race issues it deals with, but because as soon as Virgil says, like, if you look in her purse, you'll find $100 for an abortion, then they're like, how dare she do such a shocking, terrible thing?
Yeah. Just a little note that $600 in 1967 is about $4,600 now, so it really wasn't cheap, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What did you think of the murder plot, like taking the race issues and the social issues to a side? What did you think of it as, at its core, a murder mystery?
I thought it was fairly standard and had some good twists and like used the thing well of having Virgil just assume it would be Mr. Endicott.
Yeah.
I think they used that well, but to be honest, like, I always find murder mysteries fairly standard now, but obviously, I mean, this was the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have a fairly similar structure.
It had some pretty cool twists and reveals, but it didn't really rely on, like, well, I think we'll probably come on to the music, but it didn't really rely on big, bombastic music to when they had reveals, which you might traditionally expect from a film of that time.
Yeah.
Apart from that one scene where there was huge bombastic music, when it was literally just the other police officer, Gillespie, being racist towards Tibbs, which I thought
it was weird
that odd.
The rest of it was kind of understated. Like, if you wanted the big music, maybe during the slapping scene, which seems to be like a really important one.
Yeah.
Because the rest of it is kind of like bluesy and guitar. I said it sounded like Seamus from Pink Floyd's Medal. But
it was composed by Quincy Jones, the music.
Is he a lad?
He is a lad. He's Michael Jackson's producer.
Oh.
It's really famous.
He won nominated for an Academy Award. I think. Yeah. Yeah, he's done quite a lot. One thing I will note is that the cinematography, like, now I think what gets murder mysteries now is the style, but in the 60s, because maybe they hadn't been overdone as much, it was kind of like a fairly... it didn't have that... like, the most recent murder mystery that comes to mind is like Knives Out, which is that's very stylistic in its direction. This, I think, because it was the 60s, it did too many medium shots, which it kind of bores me. Like, some of the specific, I got down some cinematography things I liked was like when he was examining the dead body, that did actually feel more modern. Like, you could probably see that in a modern like a police drama.
I've seen quite a few long shots, didn't it?
Yeah. So like with him, it was really close up of his hands, like, and going up the body and stuff. That felt more modern and kind of, you probably wouldn't have seen too much like that at the time. And then there was also the really wide shot of the guy running along the bridge.
Yeah,
where it was like panning and where it was panning and zooming in as well. That was cool. But
yeah, I like that.
Other than that, it was kind of fairly standard, and it did feel just whenever there's a shot where it's just like a camera's kind of in the corner of a room and then the other characters are just chatting, that always makes me feel like the film is old.
Yeah. I saw a review that said, like, the standout thing for them was the cinematography, which I don't really agree with, because I think something this film did quite well, I thought, was like a subtle exploration of themes, and because of that, he didn't really have a style as such, so it didn't really need to rely on over the top cinematography, or it didn't really stand out as much as things like the acting or the story, which mostly drove it, I thought.
Yeah, it was definitely more one that was supposed to be grappling with its themes, and so acting and the writing was more important.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But there were some moments that were cool
But yeah,
in terms of the cinematography.
Yeah, but the majority of it was pretty standard.
its budget was $2 million, and I assume that was 1967 dollars.
Yeah. That's
Maybe
15 million. 15,600,000 nowadays.
50 or 15.
1.5.
Oh right, so that is fairly small for a film budget.
How much did it make?
It made 24.3 million, so it did make a lot of its money back, and it was probably quite big at the time. It won 5 Academy Awards. So I think it was a big thing, and because also the 60s was the time. This was before like the blockbuster.
Yeah.
So people would watch a wide range of films.
Something that shocked me quite a bit is there's actually a sequel to this.
There
Is
is?
there?
In 1970 called They Call Me Mr. Tibbs.
I
Oh,
wouldn't have assumed that this would have been a film you could make a sequel of, really.
2 sequels.
There's 2.
A third one called The Organization.
Damn.
So,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, they're not
And
meant to be as good.
also there was the TV series adaptation.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
adaptations don't really count.
Although I think the TV series was supposed to be quite good because it ran for like 7 years, and it comes up before the film does. Yeah, it had 8 seasons. It comes up before the film does on IMDb, but it doesn't have as many reviews. So I don't know how that works. I don't know how the IMDb algorithm functions.
Yeah.
Well, you should.
I should know it.
Should I?
It's like you should watch the Clone Wars.
I assume they'd probably hide it, wouldn't they? Just like I should watch the Clone Wars. I am actually watching the Clone Wars, but you're gonna have to bully me even more.
Shut up
me to
and
watch
watch
it all the way
then.
through.
Leave a comment
I
saying
will.
Thom should watch the Clone Wars.
I quite liked how like the injustice in the legal system, how like when you see Virgil talking to the woman that's running the backstreet abortion place, saying how like the difference between white and black sentences is really wide, and like you get off a lot worse if just purely based on your race.
And this was even before like the war on drugs started, so it is worrying. Like a lot of the issues it brings up are still pertinent today, and well, they got a lot more pertinent, I guess, in this around the 70s era.
Yeah.
So it is quite an important film that also manages to be entertaining at the same time with like the murder mystery aspect.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting that it decided to do that. Do you think? I wonder if they went as to have the murder mystery thing as well, so that like maybe more conservative people would actually watch it and maybe challenge their views.
I mean, yeah, because I can't imagine many more conservative viewers in 1967 going out to watch a film purely about like a drama about racism and the social issues at the time. I just don't think that would have been a thing that would have been successful enough.
So it like has that it has the murder mystery to attract more people that won't conventionally necessarily watch it. But
Yeah, because if you think about it, that I don't think the murder mystery was the intention of the filmmakers whatsoever.
No.
It's very much a vehicle with which to convey the issues they had with society at the time. I guess that kind of shows in the fact that it's not a particularly groundbreaking murder mystery plot. Like, yes, there are a couple of twists, and yeah, it's it's pretty formulaic, but it's very character driven, the film, and very much how the characters react to the injustices at the time. So
yeah, something that I liked about the characters, because obviously you get the perspective of someone you wouldn't necessarily get in a film of the 60s, but he's always presented as like really rational and composed, as opposed to a lot of the white characters in it who are really like barbaric almost. And like when he's been attacked and he's seen as like more in control, which is probably the opposite of like the general perception in terms of like racism at the time or earlier.
yeah, especially towards the start, it seemed that by Tibbs being very calm, composed, and he didn't even speak much, it really just brought your attention to the way that the white cops were acting, and you just go, well, why are they acting this way? Why are they being so defensive and aggressive to someone who's put up no fight whatsoever? Obviously, it's one thing looking at it back through a contemporary eye, but at the time, I feel that would have really been a very effective way of presenting the issues and the sort of hypocrisy of the white cops in the system.
Yeah, because like at the start, when he doesn't immediately sort of say I am a police officer, or even more than that, like an expert on homicide cases, it kind of you'd expect him to just automatically say it, but obviously there's like a dramatic effect of that in terms of the plot, so you can have another early shock. But there's also the social side to it, I guess, how a lot of the time he's been like forced into submission, and he feels like he has to like contain it to himself and then reveal it later.
Yeah. Because at the very
One
start,
thing I find oh, go on, because I'm going to change topic. You carry on.
I was literally just going to say that at the very start, when you don't know that he's a cop, a murder expert, the fact that you just see this done to, essentially, in the eyes of the viewer, an innocent black man really just helps enhance this, because you know nothing about him and he's not putting up any fight, and then when he turns out he's a cop, the fact that they all change their attitudes at least somewhat to accommodate him, if not act a bit more friendly.
Yeah. I think that definitely stands out with that line where one of them says something like, "You're the only human that's ever been in here." So as it progresses, they're definitely seeing him in a different lens.
Yeah.
And obviously, there is still prejudice, but less prevalent than at the start.
I was just going to say that what I find interesting is that it won the Oscar for Best Editing as well. So I was wondering why do you think that was?
Yeah.
I wonder what the competition was. There wasn't anything wrong with the editing. It was serviceable. I just don't see anything particularly great about it.
Yeah, I think I need to look at what film editing entails, because it feels like it's such an integral part of filmmaking, but you don't always notice it unless it's like really obvious, like an Edgar Wright film or something. Like all the more recent winners, it's quite obvious editing. So Oscar winners, so there's like Gravity, Whiplash, Mad Max Fury Road. It's quite, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But maybe it's because they're getting more flashy with it. I want to know. Because the thing is, though, because you didn't notice the editing, that means it was good.
Yeah. It does always seem like that I never really look out for it, and it's almost like subliminal, but obviously if there's any bad editing, then you'd notice that. If you don't notice it, then that's probably a good sign.
You either don't notice it or you really do,
Although,
but because it's
I'm
stylistic.
Yeah. I'm excluding bloody Bohemian Rhapsody that won Best Editing in 2018, which has like 60 cuts per second.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
May as well giving it to Mile 22.
Like, it was probably the worst part of the film was the editing. Why? I don't know why they gave it that. But yeah, it was something I want to look at more.
What did you think of the performances?
They were really, they were really believable. Like Sidney Poitier was especially good.
Yes, definitely. It turns out that the actor of the white cop got the. I've closed the heckin' tab. That's so sad. Yeah, he got an award for something. Best actor, I'm assuming. And Sidney Poitier didn't.
Oh yeah, he wasn't even nominated. He was nominated for a BAFTA and Golden Globe.
Because part of me is like, Poitier is so much. I wouldn't necessarily say he's so much better, but you notice his performance is better.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It's like with the editing, it's not necessarily his is better, but you've noticed that it's better.
Yeah. He had previously won an Oscar.
Yeah, which is because my first thought was he excluded because he's black. I wouldn't be surprised if that still had a role in it.
Yeah, but he won an Oscar in 1963, Best Actor for Lilies of the Field.
Because I read that he had to change his accent because he was born in the Bahamas, and he had to try and make himself sound more American. So there's obviously prejudice and discrimination almost outside of the film, obviously.
Well, I guess it depends how you interpret it, because he's supposed to be from Philadelphia.
I wouldn't say
that's not just for this film, just in general.
You mean they made him sound American, in PR stuff?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
yeah. Because if it was just in the film, that's no different to a British person doing an American accent. But
I mean, I think he had to adjust it when he was going for roles and stuff to make him sound like he's from there.
Oh yeah.
I'm not entirely sure, but this was just on his IMDb bio, so.
Because I don't think I've ever heard of people having to change their accent for just press stuff. I mean, obviously, I know about. I mean, Master of None has a whole episode of this. A lot of times Indian people are cast, and they're like, "Oh, could you do the accent?" And it's like, well, but I don't have that accent. It's kind of racist to make me do that, and they're like, "No, we need that." So
yeah,
it is weird. I mean, but to be fair, this is in a different way, because this is making him sound more, in quotation marks, American. That's interesting.
I'm not don't quote me on it, but I'm sure that's what it says.
He was made an honorary Knight Commander of the Order of the British Empire by Queen Elizabeth II.
I saw he had a Sir.
Yeah. Wow.
He was knighted.
And he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2009.
In short,
Still
what a
alive.
guy.
He's 93.
93, yeah.
Wow.
Please, 2020, don't take him away.
I think he's a
from
lad.
us.
In 2016 he was awarded the BAFTA Fellowship for Outstanding Lifetime Achievement in Film. He was ranked 22nd greatest male star of classic Hollywood cinema. And he's one of
one.
only 2 living actors on the AFI list, the other being Sophia Loren. And in 2002 he received an Academy Honorary Award in recognition of his remarkable accomplishments as an artist and as a human being. So he's obviously very highly praised now, and it seems like he's been acting for years and years and years. Like, he was in his first film in 1947.
Wow.
So yeah, I think he's an absolute lad.
I mean, the other acting in this was good as well, but obviously he was the stand-up performance.
As the lead, which can, I guess, be a bit unfair, but being a lead gives you more of an advantage.
I think the real star of the film was Shagbag.
Do you actually see him, or do they just mention him? I can't remember.
No,
I think
he's there, just sat on a chair, I think.
Oh, right.
Such a role.
Nice. It is.
Shout out to Shagbag.
my man.
Where do you think the name comes from? Is that of interest?
Something to do with the bag?
Maybe we need to do some research.
Maybe you don't say. What if, for our next episode, we actually research the film beforehand?
I think we need to set up a Patreon before we do that.
Yeah, please subscribe, and especially you, Lewis G, if you're still watching, please. If you're out there, Lewis, we love you. Please come home. Come back to the Entertainment of Excellence, listeners. It's where you belong.
Yes. Should we give ratings?
Yeah.
Indeed, we shall. You can follow along by going to our website, entertainmentofexcellence.weebly.com, on which we have a Hall of Fame, which is the top few films of each genre, and a link to all of our films ranked by their rating. It's kind of cool.
I mean, this is one of the earliest ones we've done, apart from Fantasia and, of course, the legendary Robot Monster.
Oh, Robot Monster.
So we need to compare it to those two, I guess.
Well, if we're comparing it to Robot Monster, I'd say it has...
I think it's a bit better than Robot Monster, yeah.
I was about to say special effects were quite good. I enjoyed it. It's more of a think piece than entertainment, which would kind of... I kind of want to compare it more to some of the artsy films, because we haven't really done many that are theme driven, and by that I mean social issues. I guess so. I usually go with Stalker to with less like straightforward films. So I'd say I enjoyed it a bit less than Stalker.
You gave Stalker quite low, didn't you?
I think you did,
Let's
yeah.
have a look.
You gave it a 7.25.
Wow, Ollie, you gave an 8.2. Damn.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 7.2 with this. Which is, what did I give?
0.05 below Stalker.
What did I give
What
Fear
a
and Loathing?
change.
Yep, but I enjoyed it more.
Oh,
than
you
Fear
gave that
and
quite
Loathing.
low.
6.8. Yeah, I'm going with 7.2 because it was a good film. It just wasn't outstanding. The social issues it brought up were obviously great to think about, but that's not necessarily inherent to the film. You could have had a completely different film with a completely different plot, bring up the same issues, and you'd have gone away feeling pretty much the same. Because at its heart, it was a murder mystery film. I don't think it was a particularly good one of those, so I'm going with 7.2.
Am I the only one that found the murder mystery quite convoluted?
As in, like, there are a lot of twists and turns, but I think I just kind of zoned out a bit.
Yeah, I found it hard to follow, not because of the plot, but because of the way it was presented. It was just I kind of zoned out a bit.
Maybe because you were concentrating more on like the themes and social issues they explore, which obviously there's more to discuss about that, and it has more of an impact, especially given the time it was released.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna give it a 7.3.
Ooh.
So different to Ben.
So, so I think that, like, as the plot and stuff is fine, but the social issues definitely bumps it up a bit. So I'm probably gonna go 7.2 or 3, but I'm just torn. It's such a tense decision. This is all like of our. We've got quite high.
You give it 7.3. I'm
area.
absolutely going to just explode because that's a far too high a rating.
The thing, like, I feel like it's.
I'm gonna do the same if you go 7.2 because it's too low.
The problem is, right? You two rated
the tension.
So the film's too low. That's what I'm gonna say. Because I feel like it's on the same level as like Hollywood. Actually, I gave that quite high. But I don't think it's as good as Fear and Loathing. So that's quite weird for me in terms of the way that those two are put. I'm gonna give it a 7.2. I think.
Yes.
What? That low?
Why? Why is Good Time down there as well? I think you two are just wrong.
Yeah, but Good Time was a bit. It was all right. It just wasn't particularly good.
Was it a good time?
Guys, it's okay. I'll beat Ben up later.
It was an average time.
Right. Well, it was
is it
one of our
Submission
first
Spotlight?
episodes back.
Wait.
So young back then.
Ollie, did you just hear what I heard?
Oh
Thom
my God,
talking about the
well
Submission
done.
Spotlight.
I know. I'm really proud of myself.
Spam the clapping emoji in the chat. That's what the kids do, right? So yes, it is the Submission Spotlight. We don't have any to do this week because we have to space them out after last week's one, which is the 911 call, which you should definitely go and watch. So this section is just if you are a creator, if you make music or films or write anything or do anything creative that you'd like us to give our thoughts on, you can send it in and we'll give a quick review of it. You can also come on the podcast to talk about it with us, which would be great. You'd be the first person to do that, even though we've been having this offer for like 10 episodes now. So if you've got anything you'd like us to talk about, then you can submit it by using the contact form on our website, or go to our social medias, which are at ERV Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. You can just private messages there. We'll get back to you. So yeah.
Cool. So, is it recommendations time?
You're doing it right, Thom. Well done.
I know. I just want to make up for the fact that I've got like 4 films I'm going to talk about.
It's all of these Clone Wars he's not been watching really helping.
I have been watching Clone Wars.
I've watched like
three
3
recommendations.
I've watched 16 episodes.
Yeah.
16.
James got 16.
So, okay, let's lightning round. If I can remember everything, yes. I watched Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, and I was pleasantly surprised that I really enjoyed that. It's kind of like a teen dramedy, and I mean it basically says it in the title. I don't want to spoil much, but the characters are like really believable, and it has some great comedy and is so emotional. Like, it's really good and worth watching, so you should watch that. I also watched the film Thunder Road, which is probably one of the most indie films that I've ever seen. I know, I'm proud of myself. But what is good about it is that it didn't feel indie at all. It had like a tiny budget of, I think, $200,000, but it looks amazing, and it's a really interesting tone of this. It's a blend of comedy and drama, but it's more like in the middle of the heartbreaking scenes there'll be a hilarious moment, which is really interesting, but it didn't feel like it ruined it. It's one of the only instances I've seen of that where it has the comedy and drama in the same scenes and it doesn't ruin it. So props to Jim Cummings for doing that. He was the writer, director, and star. It's definitely a film worth watching, and it's on Netflix. It's only an hour and a half, so if you want to see what independent film can do, I really recommend it. And it has like a 10-15 minute one take of him just talking at a funeral at the start, so it's a really interesting film. I then went a bit further back in time and I watched Hitchcock's Vertigo.
Oh, that sounds good. I might go and watch it on Netflix now.
Oh, it got taken off Netflix yesterday, Ollie. Oh.
Wow.
Oh, that's so sad.
This is one of those films with 100 Metascore, which usually makes me go, ugh. But I actually really liked it. It is really good. It's often put as like one of the best films of all time, and I think it has a really interesting story. So it's well written and paced, and it's like the technical aspect. It's one of those films where I did really like it, but I wouldn't put it as my top film of all time. But I know why it's seen as like the best film of all time, because I know it really intentionally uses color. It reveals like how Hitchcock kind of viewed women, which wasn't in the best light, but it's kind of an honest depiction of what he thought, which is kind of like, it is more like an artist's vision type thing. And I know he invented like the dolly zoom for this, which I think was used for the actual vertigo effect. So there's a lot of good things to like about this film, and it is actually enjoyable. And it was 1958, so even earlier than In the Heat of the Night.
Are you making up for the fact that you haven't seen Psycho?
Yes.
How have you not seen Psycho?
It was on Netflix, but it was on Netflix during the time where I could never be bothered to watch any film.
So, at least you need to.
I'm hoping to watch it. Yeah. But Vertigo is definitely well worth watching. And I also watched Zombieland, which is completely different to Vertigo. It's a comedy horror. And it feels like America's response to Shaun of the Dead, which would put me off, to be honest. But it is actually, I did really enjoy it. I think it's really stylistic. It's got good editing, like fun, violence, and the character dynamic is really good. It is really fun and worth watching, and that's on Netflix currently. It hasn't been snatched off there, so you can watch that too. I think that's everything.
I want Netflix to have a feature where they tell you what's coming off it, rather than having like a tiny little text when you get onto the film. Do you have anything, Ben?
Just briefly, I've been watching the show Brooklyn Nine-Nine recently. which is groovy. It's a comedy sitcom about police departments in Brooklyn, as the name would suggest. And there's not really a lot to say about it other than it's really good. Its comedy's very good. It's just very good. I'm really tired. So yeah, it just follows the adventures of detectives who have to go out into the field and solve crimes, but it's mainly at heart the sort of relationships between them, and that's where a lot of the comedy comes from the interactions between characters. Personally, I feel like I personally am a mixture of Hitchcock and Scully. So you can
You're not talking about Alfred Hitchcock, are you?
No, Hitchcock from...
I know who Hitchcock is. I was just because I talked about Vertigo.
Oh, that's like a reference.
Yes.
That's all I'm gonna say. It's okay. So it's on Netflix, but I think only the first 6 seasons are on Netflix, even though there's a 7th one, and there's an 8th one coming out next year. So I don't know where you're going to get the 7th one. I'm not up to the 7th one yet. I'm still on. I'm the first few episodes of season 6. So
wow.
You can.
Oh my god!
I watched like
series
1.5.
one.
Yeah, I watched 1.5 series of it a while ago, and it was really enjoyable. I just stopped watching it for some reason.
Oh, when I binge something, I binge something.
Yeah, you really
I watched
do.
the whole of the American Office in 2 weeks.
That's like
That's the whole 9 seasons with like 20 episodes each season.
Apart from season 1.
Yeah, but season 1 doesn't count.
True.
As I've
Go
been...
on then, Ollie.
Oh right.
You've got many.
Yeah, I've got 3 recommendations.
How do you have the time to deal with all
Because
this
we're
stuff?
not spending all our time watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
No, you just told me 6 seasons or something.
I watched them all in like the past week. Before that.
Yeah. Well, so I think the sum total of what I'm recommending is like 5 hours. Never mind the 6 seasons. How long's that?
Quite a bit. It's like 22 episodes, 20 minutes long, times 6. Anyway,
That's
get
about
on with
5
it.
hours. So the first one is, it's called. Well, I mean, I like it. It's not the best. It's called Auntie Donna's Big Ol' House of Fun. It's quite a like absurdist humor. It's these Australian trio comedy act who have a YouTube channel. They're not the most well known, but they did get a Netflix show. And I mean, it has some pretty good sketches. Some are better than others, but there's actually an interview with them on Mr. Sunday Movies channel about how to get a Netflix show. So that's also quite interesting if you like that. The second thing is Star Wars Clone Wars, not the Clone Wars, but the 2003 miniseries, which is it's actually really good. I mean, it's not actually canon anymore. It was at the time because it came out between episode 2 and 3. So like it starts right at the end of episode 2 and ends right at the start of episode 3, if that makes sense.
Does it just get retconned?
Yeah. Well, it actually has the first appearance of iconic characters such as Asajj Ventress, General Grievous, and Shar Gi.
Oh yeah,
If you don't know who that is, then yeah, it's pretty much just Shaggy in Star Wars.
Powerful Shaggy.
And it's really stylistic. Like the first, well, it's sort of split into 2 volumes. The first volume, series 1 and 2, and those episodes are about 4 minutes in length. and then series 3 about 15 minutes. So in all, it's just over 2 hours. But it does have really cool action. It's very different to the Clone Wars, which Tom should watch. And
Tom, watch the Clone Wars.
It has some cool, like it does exaggerate like the potency of the Jedi and Sith, because there's like this scene where Mace Windu fights about 1 million battle droids and just without a lightsaber just punches them and force pushes them all away. It's ridiculous, but
all right.
it is pretty cool. And then the third thing is...
Wait, is that on Disney Plus?
No, I just watched it on YouTube.
Oh, right.
And the third thing is another... Well, I know Tom mentioned an indie film. It's a bit of an indie film as well. You've probably never heard of it. It's called Apocalypse Now. No, obviously it's a pretty famous film directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and I know that it took like 2 years to edit. He filmed like over 200 hours of footage and stuff. I believe I watched the final cut, which was just under 3 hours. And well, if you don't know, it's a Vietnam War film, but it's more of like an exploration of the protagonist and like going into his mind. Not really to do with PTSD, but he's in like a bit of a catch-22 situation where at the start there's like some narration where he says when he's at home all he can think about is the jungle, but then when he's in the jungle he wants to go home, and basically he's sent on this mission to hunt down this American officer gone rogue who was he's set up like this cult sort of thing where he's worshipped as a god, and loads of Viet Cong, but also a lot of Americans go and worship him, and he's sent to track him down and kill him. I won't tell you what happens, but and along the way it does show a lot of like the insanities of war, and particularly the Vietnam War, which was highly controversial for America. And I know there's a lot of popular Vietnam War films, but yeah, it's very good. Definitely worth watching.
Nice.
Groovy. So, anything else to say?
No.
But we need to say what we're doing next week.
Trick question. I definitely remembered that.
I believe it's Hunger. I think it's on the schedule.
Yes, if you go to Entertainment
Hopefully we don't find out
Excellence...
it's going to be taken off in like 2 minutes.
If you go to entertainmentofexcellence.weebly.com and subscribe to our mailing list, you will get access to the schedule. And you can see what we will be doing a couple of weeks in advance. And also, in the off chance we forget to say at the end of the episode, which is quite likely. Anyway, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed. Go and give Hunger a watch. And we'll see you next week. Alright, see you.
Alright, see you.
Alright, see you.